Hello all my NCGA friends. Welcome to the NCGA FMC Ag Weather Outlook, March 22nd, 2015. I know we're all really anxious to get out in the fields for weather to warm up and sort of stay warm. And I think there's a pretty good signal I'm going to explain for this spring, a little bit better confidence than usual during this variable time of the season. But before I get into that, let's look at precipitation over the last 7 days. You can see it was fairly quiet over almost the entire region. There was some precipitation here and there, but right through the core of the Corn Belt, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, southern Wisconsin, no rain at all or snow. And we can see that percent of normal, red is well below normal for the week. Just a small area of the Corn Belt, primarily North Dakota, received above normal precipitation, but overall it was a quiet week. And I keep on sort of reinforcing this here is that, every season I'm always worried about something. If we're out dealing with planting corn or any crops, there's always something to worry about. I don't know if we've ever had perfect weather, but this is the past 30-day departure. And last year at this time, I was more concerned about wet conditions. This year, I'm more concerned about dry conditions, and that might help get into the field early. But again, I'd prefer to be a little bit wetter at this time of the year that we're seeing. So this past 30-day departure from normal, what we're looking at is 2 inches or so below what we would normally have over the last 30-day period over most areas. Not necessarily extreme, but certainly trending in that dry area. Now, there was a bit of snow last week. As we see this time of year, like I said in last week's briefing, snow we get usually doesn't stay on the ground long, and we're getting towards the last part of the season. The Northeast U.S., you heard the record-breaking snow, or the season at Boston. Northeast has really been hit hard, but we just had some light snow over the upper Midwest. And a little bit that's on the ground. You can see here that area in blue. That'll go very quickly as average high temperatures are above freezing at this time. Keep on thinking I won't show too much more as far as snow, but I think we'll still get some drabble amounts of snow here and there for the next couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, this week we could actually get over the far upper Midwest more significant snow. Now, temperatures last week were above normal, centered over the north central U.S., the Dakotas, and Minnesota, as well as Nebraska. Temperatures 10 degrees or more above normal, some cases 15 degrees above normal. In the eastern Corn Belt, that area in yellow, anywhere up to about 5 to 10 degrees above normal. But just about everywhere over the U.S. Corn Belt over the last 7 days was above normal as far as temperatures. Now, the soil moisture. There are many different things I look at, factors and models and measurements for soil moisture. This is one I tend to look at a lot. It's called the Vic soil moisture model, and areas in green are indicating soils that are unusually wet, and areas in brown and yellow are dry. And the upper Midwest is because of the lack of snow, winter precipitation, we're running dry. Models will show this a little bit differently, each different model, but you can sort of see the central part of the Corn Belt right now is the area that is, at least from this model, saying that this is the driest conditions in this region. Now, I said I have some confidence in this forecast going forward, and I've been talking about this for a while, the Pacific North America pattern, or PNA. And when I look for that, these are ocean temperature anomalies. So when I look at this blue here, this is saying that sea surface temperatures are cooler than normal in this region, warmer than normal in the areas of brown and red, warmer than normal here. But especially this area of cool Pacific water, along with this warm water right here, is indicating that we have this positive PNA. And that's been in place for a while now. And matter of fact, if we look at the winter months here, going back through December, above this line is positive, below is negative. You can see it's primarily been a positive PNA. Now, we've had a period here of a week or so of an exception. We went to negative, but now we're getting back into positive. And I think as long as the waters in that region are like that, and they don't change drastically, so we're more prone towards this positive PNA pattern than a negative PNA. And there are many other things we'll look at, especially as we get into summertime, that will override this. But right now, in these transition months, the positive P&A is going to tell us a very strong clue as to our weather as far as temperature and precipitation. So here's the forecast, and the models do indicate a positive P&A is going to continue into at least early April, fairly strong, and that's going to give us a clue as to far as what our weather will be. So at the end of March, this is that positive P&A. It's basically giving us a ridge or a bumping of the jet stream to the north over the western U.S. and a dip over the east. You might say, where have I seen this before? Well, this is about all I've talked about all winter long. We're vulnerable towards the jet stream dipping to the south and the east. Now, it's not going to be as intense. It's not going to be as prolonged. So the anomalies of temperature, the cool anomalies, aren't going to be nearly as strong. And it's not going to really remain in place as persistent as we saw in the winter. But still, I've been saying this for quite some time now. Until that positive P&A breaks, we're going to be vulnerable for continued intrusions of cooler than normal air, mainly from Wisconsin, Illinois, eastward. Now, that doesn't mean that the other areas west will be receiving that, but generally we're looking at the Great Lakes and the eastern Corn Belt. So let's look at temperatures. These are temperatures this week. We see a little bit above normal, a little bit below normal, and then we really see the positive P&A pattern kick in again as we get towards the latter part of March, even rounding out the end of the month. And this is that gradient I talked to you about. If you're in the western Corn Belt, it's going to be milder, but if you get into the eastern Corn Belt, especially Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, that region is going to be anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees below normal. And even as we get into early April, we see some of this pattern still there. It's not as intense, but it still looks very similar. So I think we're vulnerable towards those cooler weather. Now this week, as far as precipitation go, I think there will be more than last week. It doesn't necessarily look excessively heavy in any area, but it does look like there could be some modest precipitation. And we could have some significant snow in a few spots, especially over parts of eastern North Dakota, parts of Minnesota, even a small part of Wisconsin. Don't get too hung up on those exact locations, but there could be some. And we could even see some in parts of Illinois and Indiana, but that should be very light. But to put that in perspective, here's the anomalies for week 1 and then week 2. And you can see that most of the area is unshaded, so let's say near normal precipitation this week, maybe a streak here or there of heavier precipitation. Week 2 looks quiet, so I think the overall pattern is below normal precipitation. If we look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, this is just what I said here. This comes from NOAA. Blue being unusually cold, warm, red unusually warm. Dry conditions in the 6 to 10 day. Likewise, not much change in the 8 to 14 day, and sort of no signal one way or the other as far as precipitation. So your takeaway points, there will be some variation in temperature, but I do think we're vulnerable towards cooler than normal weather right into early April over the central and eastern Corn Belt, near normal to maybe even a little bit above normal over the far west. Modest precipitation this week, but I think overall the trend is going to be drier than normal. So from a whole Corn Belt perspective, I think we're looking at cooler than normal early spring temperatures and below normal early spring precipitation. So that's this week's outlook. I'd like to hear from you. There's my email. You can contact me anytime. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer, let me know, and I'd be glad to answer it with you. Or if you find something interesting, I'd like to hear what you find interesting as well. So have a great week. I'll be updating this briefing again next weekend.